Wild horse in the wolf pack. The hunter found a wild horse in the forest. It was a gray morning, and the cold wind cut through the faces of the people gathered around the bonfire. They talked about the horse, which was always surrounded by wolves. "Did you see the wild horse again?" asked Leonard, a stout-handed farmer. Amelia, a young shepherdess, replied, "I saw calluses on the horse's hooves last night. The wolves were with it, but it seemed like they were protecting it." They agreed that it was strange, almost supernatural, when the wolves reacted with fierce growls when others tried to get close to the horse. However, the horse stayed calm, as if trusting them. Leonard was worried that if they ignored this, something bad could happen. Victor the hunter was called to help. He knew what to do. As the best hunter in the Alto region, with a thick beard and cold eyes, he lived to hunt rare trophies. When I heard the story of the horse and wolves, a horse surrounded by wolves and still alive, I asked him to sharpen his knife, as it would be an addition to my collection. The next day, he arrived in the village, bringing with him my rifle and a determination that intimidated even the bravest residents. They welcomed him with hope. But could anyone solve this mystery? They said, "Victor, can you solve this?" The next morning, Victor left alone to the forest, following the traces that the locals had indicated. I was ready for anything, or so I thought. After hours of walking in silence, Victor finally spotted a group. There was the horse, an animal majestic and dark-haired, and 6 wolves moved slowly, as if they were protecting him. Victor stopped, raising his rifle, but something made him hesitate. The behavior of the animals was not natural. He had never seen anything like it. The wolf seemed to be attentive to everything around, but not to the horse. It was as if the horse was part of their pack. Victor squinted, trying to understand. After some time, the horse began to walk, and the wolves followed him like shadows. Intrigued, Victor decided to follow them. Meanwhile, in the village, or the Yao, villagers met again to discuss the horse. Eleanor, a wise and respected woman, shared something no one had known. She had been watching the horse for weeks. She said that he did not belong to anyone, and the wolves followed him as if he were their leader. De Lobos asked her incredulously, "I saw them with my own eyes. They guide him through the forest, and they obey him. It's something I never imagined was possible." The revelation made everyone even more confused. In the woods, Victor continued, following the group, keeping a safe distance and attentive to every movement. After almost 2 hours, the group stopped near a tall tree. Victor noticed that the horse began to prance. When he reached for something in the branches, he looked closer and saw a trap. Caught in the trap was a wild boar. The wolves waited patiently while the horse worked to pull the boar out. Victor was astonished. He had never seen anything like that before. Even though they needed it to survive, the horse finally managed to free the wild boar, and the wolves began to eat. But the most impressive thing was that the horse did not show any fear. He just stood there watching. Victor knew he had a choice to make. He could take off on the horse and claim the trophy of his career, or he could leave the horse and preserve that unique bond between 2 different species. While pondering, the horse looked directly at Victor, making him feel something he had never felt before: respect. He lowered his rifle and stood by, watching the wolves. When the animals finished eating, Victor decided to follow them again, but this time with a different purpose: to understand the relationship between the 2 species. After following the group for a few more hours, Victor noticed that the horse was leading the pack. He led them on safe paths away from danger and traps. In return, the wolves protected him. The relationship between predators and prey was a symbiotic one, a partnership based on mutual survival. Victor was amazed at what he saw, knowing very few people would believe him if he told the story. He gathered the residents of the village and told them not to touch the horse, which he said was more than just an animal. The horse was the leader of the pack, and they needed him to survive. The villagers were impressed by Victor's story, but they decided to respect his wishes and let him live in peace. "There are more things in nature that we do not understand," Victor said, "and it's best to let them be." It's been a while since Victor returned to the village and shared his experience. Although the villagers decided not to interfere, something worried them about the relationship between the horse and wolves. They felt that it was not just instinctive. One night, while reflecting on what he saw, Victor noticed some peculiar marks on the horse's body. They looked like scars, but Victor had not noticed them before. To closely examine the memory of his turn of events, Victor decided to return to the forest as an observer rather than a hunter. It took him hours to find the group again, this time in a deeper and more remote area where the snow was thick and the trees stood like silent giants. He found wolves gathered in a circle around a horse, their behavior ritualistic and harmonious. While the horse remained motionless, the wolves flew in harmony, creating a stunning sight. This story has made you curious, and here you don't need to subscribe to the channel to enjoy it. It helps to keep bringing incredible stories like this. And of course, activate Tinker Bell to not miss the exciting denouement that comes next for Victor. Using his camera, Victor recorded everything, but while watching, he noticed something that made him shiver. The marks on the horse began to glow slightly under the moonlight. "This is not normal," he whispered. To himself, trying to stay calm, he decided to approach cautiously. When Victor approached Maya, she reacted instantly. The wolves stopped howling and turned towards him, growling. The horse, however, remained calm, looking directly at Victor. It was as if it was allowing him to approach. He took a few steps, hesitating until he was within a few feet of the group. The horse faced him with intensity. Victor knelt down slowly, trying to appear as less threatening as possible. Then, he noticed something even stranger. The marks on the horse's neck were formed by symbols that looked like they were made by hands, not by the claws or teeth of predators. This was done by someone. He murmured as he recorded everything with his camera, while Victor watched. A noise in the forest made him turn around quickly. Out of the shadows, a figure came. A hooded person walked slowly towards the wolves group. Curiously, they did not react. "You should not be here," said the figure. A hoarse voice asked, "Who are you? What are you doing to this horse?" Victor stood up, revealing a figure. Her face was that of an old woman with deep and wise eyes. "My name is Annalise," she said. "I am the guardian of this place and this horse." Victor was silent, waiting for her to continue. "You don't understand what you're seeing," Annalise said, approaching the horse and placing her hand on its neck. "These symbols are not scars, but old marks made by a group that has lived here for centuries. This horse is more than it seems, carrying something that wolves recognize, something that insists Victor balance." Annalise explained that the horse was chosen to guide the wolves and maintain balance between species. But humans always try to destroy things they don't understand. Victor felt a mix of fear and fascination. He expected Annalise to believe that this horse was some kind of protector, but whether he believed or not didn't matter to Annalise. What mattered was that she knew the truth, that it should be protected. If something happens to him, the balance will be broken, and this forest will never be the same. Before Victor could even react, the sound of a gunshot echoed through the forest. He and Annalise turned around, alarmed. Hunters told them with contempt that the shot came from other hunters, who had heard rumors about the horse. Annalise hastened to move the group to a safe place. She asked Victor to help her, but he felt he had no choice but to follow her. Together they led the group away from the danger, with the sound of footsteps and human voices becoming more and more distant. Next, Victor put himself in front of the group, and from the direction from which the hunters came, he said, "I'll distract them. Take the horse and wolves away." Annalise hesitated, but nodded. "Be careful," she said. "They will not forgive you." While Annalise and the animals disappeared into the woods, Victor stayed behind, heading in the direction of the hunters, screaming to lure their attention. "You are hunting for something that is not here," he said, facing one of the armed men, the hunters. However, they weren't willing to listen. Victor, who knew that the horse was worth a fortune, raised his hand to stop them. "You can't kill him if everything will change," he said. But before he could finish, one of the hunters raised his gun. Victor faced the hunter, raising his own gun. In contrast, he was cold and determined, and didn't seem willing to negotiate. "We don't want trouble with you," Victor said, "but we won't let this opportunity slip away." The hunter replied, "If you shoot, you will be destroying something. Much more than you can imagine," Victor shouted, trying to buy time, but the leader of the hunters, Morgan, laughed with contempt. "Stories of legends don't feed us," he said. "This horse is a prize. And we'll take you." Before Victor could react, one of the hunters fired a warning shot into the sky. The sound echoed through the forest, alerting the wolves. In the distance, the sound indicated that they were still nearby. Victor knew he needed to act. He laughed, picked up a stone, and threw it at the rifle. The rifle fell to the ground, but before Victor could do anything else, he was pinned down by another hunter. Morgan pointed the rifle again, this time directly at Victor. "You had your chance. Now get out of the way, or you'll pay the price." Before the hunter could shoot, a fierce growl echoed among the trees. It was the wolves returning from the shadows. They moved between Victor and the hunters, their teeth shining in the moonlight, and their eyes showing an almost human determination. "These wolves are protecting him?" asked one of the hunters, visibly nervous. "I warned you," responded Victor. Victor, while enjoying the distraction, broke free from the horse. "It's not just an animal, it's a heart from this forest, and these wolves are defending you with their lives." Morgan hesitated. He knew that fighting wolves would be suicide, but greed was strong. If they want to protect the horse, they had to shoot them. Also, Mattia pointed out when the horse appeared again, emerging from the darkness like a majestic sight. His presence made the wolves cease their growls and wait. As if waiting for instructions, the horse looked directly at Morgan and the other hunters. Suddenly, the marks on his neck began to shine brightly, illuminating the clearing with light. The hunters stayed paralyzed, as if that light reached something in their souls, making them lower their guns. Morgan fell to his knees, unable to understand what he was feeling. One of the hunters murmured with tears in his eyes, "He's not an ordinary animal. It's as if he understands us." Victor was also impressed. He felt a wave of calm wash over him as the horse reared, releasing a powerful sound that echoed through the forest. When the light finally disappeared, hunters began to retreat, leaving their weapons on the ground. Morgan, now without strength, just muttered, "It's not worth it. Let's leave them." They disappeared into the woods, leaving Victor, Analyze, and the animals in peace. Analyze, who had returned, silently put his hand on Victor's shoulder. From Victor, he understood that the horse did not belong to them or the wolves, but to the forest, where he was the guardian of balance, and his mission was greater than any of theirs. If they asked, Victor worried, they would not return. Annalise answered. The light they saw touched something deep within them. But even if others tried, the forest would always protect its guardian. Victor decided to stay in the village for some time, helping to protect the forest and animals. He shared his story only with those who deserved to know. "I would believe that they could help preserve the natural balance of the place." The horse and the wolves kept wandering together through the forest, inseparable. Whoever saw them by chance described the scene as magical, a vision that could never be forgotten. Over time, history became a local legend. It was said that the horse was an ancestral spirit. They thought he was just an animal, guided by something bigger. Victor knew the truth, and at night, he could still hear the howls of wolves and the distant sound of horse hooves echoing through the forest. As a reminder that balance was more important than any ambition, Humanity liked this story. It was fascinating. So do not forget to share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel to follow more exciting stories full of mystery. Activate the Tinkerbell to stay up to date with all the news.